Okay, well, I mean, there's also the whole question about property rights in the United States and the extent to which the government could regulate the way in which people use their property and, in some cases, the way in which they rent it out to other people. And what has happened is the rent control issue has a long and somewhat complicated history, but it started out as a short time war measure that was imposed around 1919 after the First World War, when there were huge numbers of people coming into Washington for jobs, and they said landlords could not raise rents because of the influx of people. That's not a very smart rule. You want them to raise rents so that you can induce more people to put housing in the market. But this thing lasted for only 3 years, and when the District of Columbia tried to renew it, the Supreme Court said, sorry, the emergency over, you can't do it. And then it sort of transformed itself into a perpetual machine, so that in places like New York, they said there's always going to be an emergency so long as you have a vacancy rate which is under 5%. But of course, if you depress the rents, it's always going to be below 5%. And so when they put this so-called rent stabilization order in place in 1962, every couple of years they would renew it, but they never found a case where the emergency ended. And this is a very odd emergency. This is not people coming into the country. This is not a storm or a tornado. It's a legislative created situation which they use to keep rents down. And it's very popular locally because landlords don't vote the same number as tenants do. You try to put limitations on the price that you can sell your house, you're going to get a revolution. And what has happened is they keep tightening the rules. They allow rent control to go not only to the tenant but to his children. And then recently what they did is they extended the reach and the power of this in 2018, when it turned out that the Republicans lost the Senate, and so the Democrats could do what they will, and they had this progressive situation. So even if you were within the stabilization rate, they put a new limitation upon you, and a very large group of landlords decided to protest this. A lot of clout. I was asked to write and did write an amicus brief on this stuff, and the Supreme Court now has to decide whether or not it's going to upend rent control. You want to figure out what that's
Okay, so
worth.
let me stop you
Yeah,
for a second, Richard. Are they
sure.
gonna do it or are they not gonna do it?
Well, we don't even know yet, and I'll tell you why. This is a case which has to be granted by the Supreme Court. And they've had it now in conference 10 times, and they've yet to decide whether they want to take it or they don't want to take it. If they do take it, it's a sign that they're going to make a major shift in the system. And if they make a major system in the system, then every rental agreement in the United States, which is bound by the rent control laws of New York State, may be in jeopardy, and the whole thing will be liberalized. This would be a massive change because the way it works in New York City now, there's a huge imbalance. You live in a rent control unit, say, which has 2,100 square feet and 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, and you can't pay more than $2,500 a month in rent. You go across the street to somebody who's not in a rent control unit, and they're paying $10, $11, or $12,000. And so if you get rid of the rent control system or modify it, one group of renters are going to pay much less, and the other group of renters are going to pay a lot more, but the market will be much more efficient in terms of how it operates. So I'm strongly in favor of them forcing constitutional limits in these cases.